I'm Kritter Kyle here. Welcome back for another vlog. So here I have No Feet, my normal ball python, and he is currently in shed. If you look at the milky eyes, here, let me see if I can get him to go over. See, I don't know if you can see that. Their eyes turned milky. Yesterday actually would have been a better day to show this to you guys. It's kind of hard to notice here, but if you notice the underside, it looks very opaque. That is when, this is the phrase going into blue means. It means the snake is about to shed off its skin, and when a snake goes into blue, that is when it lets off a secretion almost in between the layers of its skin to help peel off its outer layer of skin, and that's why it's called going into blue, because it kind of makes him look blue. But look at his eyes. Eyes are, you're gonna see that. So this is No Feet. He's my normal ball python. Right now, the oldest snake I've owned. He is a little bit over 2 years old. My sweetie. This is Julius. He's my creamsicle corn snake. He is also in shed right now, but it's really hard to tell with him because he's already a very light patterned snake. Same thing. Yesterday probably would have been a better day to show you guys because his eyes aren't really opaque anymore, so that means probably tonight or tomorrow that he'll be shedding. Now No Feet probably has another 2 or 3 or more days to go, but Julius here, I think he'll be shedding either today or tomorrow. In this vlog, I'm going to be talking about my childhood, my experience with animals from childhood till now. It's going to be about how I got into animals and show you guys how much I've always loved animals my whole life. Okay, so I'm gonna go way back to my first memory as a child. I'm gonna say 3 years oldish. I was living with my mom in an apartment underneath my grandparents' house. My grandparents had a German Shepherd. They used to breed German Shepherds back in the day. They had a black cat named Bogey, and I had a great bond with the both of them. And then I also had, my mom had these finches that just eventually reproduced, and there were so many of them, so eventually she got rid of them. And I remember at Boy Scouts winning a couple goldfish. Well, the next day, one of them was dead, and then the next day, the second one had died. So much for the goldfish. And then I also had, after the finches, I had gotten a parakeet, and I named him Baby, and I had him for 8 years, and I absolutely adored him. He was my baby. I used to share my lollipops with him. He used to lick the lollipop. I used to put it up to the cage. He used to lick them, and I used to open the cage up and let him fly around my room, and when he'd be done, we'd go back to sleep, he'd go back into the cage, so I just put the lid back on the cage. And he was such a good parakeet. Me and him had a great bond. And then I had gotten a second parakeet named Tuki. She was blue, and I missed him very much. Baby died at 8 years old. Tuki, when things got tough for me and my mom, and we had to move, we had to bring her to a pet store, and a friend we knew worked at a pet store, and they took him in. I think Tuki was a girl. Another good experience from my childhood was going to Cape Cod and going on, not only did I used to go crabbing and look for critters in the water in the ocean, especially in low tide, I used to find a bunch of critters. I went whale watching, and we saw a bunch of humpback whales, and that was an incredible experience. Growing up when I was a kid, my dream job was to be a zookeeper. I've always loved animals and everything. Growing up around my grandparents' house, there was a bunch of animals. We lived pretty much in the woods on a hill, and my grandfather had his gardens, and he had bird feeders up all the time. He had a big bird feeder out in the yard that used to be right in front of our place. We used to look out, and we used to see all the birds and squirrels, and we used to have a bunch of wild turkeys that came by. We've seen deer. My grandfather had a bunch of hummingbird feeders, and a bunch of his flowers in his gardens attracted the hummingbirds as well. So we definitely had a lot of wildlife. There was a snapping turtle in our yard one time. I remember that was one of my favorite memories with me and my grandmother when we got back from somewhere. I think I had a bag of McDonald's in my hand, and there was a snapping turtle right on the stone wall coming down the bank, and I have pictures of that, and I wish I can go back to being a child. But then again, the knowledge that I know now, I don't know if I could replace the knowledge that I know now especially about all these animals that I know about. Some of my other past pets I had was, I had the parakeets when I lived there. Then when we moved to the next town over, we got a 10-gallon tank filled with all different kinds of freshwater tropical fish, and I used to love watching the fish, but fish are very hard to keep. They kept dying, and we kept replacing them. They kept dying, and we kept replacing them. Yeah, I don't think fish are for me. I love fish so much, but I just have never been able to get a good grip on taking care of them. There's always something that I can't figure out. I had another thing of goldfish there, and of course they got ick eventually and died, and those were the large goldfish that were fat. I forget what they were called. When I went down to Florida after my grandma moved down to Florida after my grandfather died, I used to go visit her down in Florida, and we used to go, they had Lion Country Safari down there, and that was amazing. I used to love that. And after you could drive your car through all the exhibits of the animals, like you can drive through the lions, and like outside your window is literally the lion sleeping right there next to the road, next to your car. Like, there's no barrier between the lions and your car. Also at Lion Country Safari, there was a part where you can walk in, and there was a cafeteria and a gift shop and all that stuff. And there was a big giant Aldabra tortoise, or Galapagos tortoise, and my grandma had a cookie in her purse, And it kept going after my grandma's cookie. So she snuck him a piece of cookie, and she probably shouldn't have, but she felt bad because he was going after the cookie, so she got a piece of her chocolate chip cookie, but I don't think any with the chocolate chips in it. I think it was just the cookie part. Anyways, that's another great memory from my past with animals. And now going back to my old animals as a childhood, I also had a bearded dragon. His name was Stormy, and he was missing some of his toes. He was already old when I got him, and he was an amazing pet, and I think I had him for like a year or two before we had to move. And then after we moved, my grandfather took, not my grandfather, after we moved, my uncle took him in, and he was really old, and his health deteriorated and eventually passed away not too long after that. We also had a black lab mix named Mandy, and she was an amazing animal. I loved her. And then I had a cat that my mom got me, a kitten, and I named her Bunnicula after the book, the evil bunny, vampire bunny. I don't think she's evil, but she's a vampire bunny. I don't remember. It's been a while. I hope you guys can hear me better. I had to go shut my windows. There's a lot of noise coming from outside, and take my head up because it's really hot in here now because I have my fan off so I can record. Anyways, also in my childhood, I had a hermit crab named Hermie, and he was one of my favorites. And I have had other hermit crabs too, but Hermie I had for probably about 8 years as well. And the other ones I didn't have for as long, and some died and some I ended up getting rid of. Eventually I got rid of them all after Hermie died, I think. Now, these are not, I haven't told you guys all of my pets. These are just my childhood pets because this blog is talking about animals from my childhood and how I got into animals. Something else I haven't mentioned yet in this blog is one of the reasons why I got into reptiles, I think. I mean, I've always loved all animals, but something that just helped it even more is my uncle breeds snakes, and that is one of the reasons why I love snakes so much. And honestly, lizards were always one of my things when I was a kid. I always wanted a lizard. That's why I got the bearded dragon. It was my uncle who got me that bearded dragon. And then as I got older, I got into other animals, and turtles and tortoises have become my favorite animal, and they're still my favorite animal today. So if you think it's snakes, I love snakes, but they're not my favorite animal. They're definitely up there with one of my favorites, but turtles and tortoises are my favorite animals. I just wanted to give you guys an update on my oak tree here, which is doing amazing. You can look at all the greenery on the leaves, and he or she is growing very healthy. Well, there's my beautiful oak tree. One day be beautiful and big and strong. Thank you for watching today's vlog. Please treat everyone with love, respect, and kindness always. Remember, respect the cold-blooded. Kritter Kyle, out.